I believe that everyone got a shared file कि भाई ये content है and this is what we cover right during the training, right? वो आप सभी को शेयर हुआ होगा, but apart from that मैं आपको ये वेबसाइट विजिट कराता हूँ F5 की, थोड़ा सा आप लोगों को वहां से आइडिया मिलना चाहिए। जैसे f5.com पे जाइए आप, सिमिलर टू व्हाट यू डू विद cisco.com। अब अगर आप f5.com पे जाते हैं तो यहाँ पे काफी टैब्स हैं, जैसे सॉल्यूशंस का भी, उस पे भी आऊंगा मैं, प्रोडक्ट्स का भी है उस पे भी आऊंगा। मेनली तो खैर प्रोडक्ट्स को ही डिस्कस करूंगा मैं आप लोगों के साथ में। तो अगर प्रोडक्ट्स की बात करेंगे तो अभी आज के टाइम में ये देखिए आप, F5 डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड क्लाउड सर्विसेज। उसके अलावा अगर आप देखेंगे तो F5 NGINX का भी मतलब ये तो काफी टाइम से आ गया था। NGINX को तो इन लोगों ने एक्वायर्ड NGINX क्वाइट वाइल अगो, बट हमारा जो है मेनली वो F5 बिग आईपी, ये प्रोडक्ट को हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, ये वाला। और यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे ना F5 बिग आईपी को, तो इधर आपको बिग आईपी DNS, जो कि पहले हम इसको बोलते थे ग्लोबल ट्रैफिक मैनेजर, और उसके नीचे ग्लोबल ट्रैफिक, ये लोकल ट्रैफिक मैनेजर LTM, ये दोनों मॉड्यूल्स को आप कवर करने वाले हैं। ये दोनों बिग आईपी एप्लीकेशन डिलीवरी के जो ये मॉड्यूल्स हैं, ये दोनों आप कवर करने वाले हैं। बाकी होता तो काफी कुछ है बिग आईपी में, जैसे APM का भी ये काम करता है, AFM का भी करता है, जिसमें फायरवॉल मॉड्यूल आप इंस्टॉल करते हैं, और एक WAF तो खैर पॉपुलर है इनका। तो LTM और DNS के बाद जो पॉपुलर है इनका, दैट इज WAF। काफी पॉपुलर है WAF इन लोगों का। बाकी और भी मॉड्यूल्स होते हैं, जैसे अगर आप देखोगे तो बिग IQ भी है यहाँ पे सेंट्रल मैनेजमेंट के लिए, बट वो ट्रेनिंग डिफरेंट होती है, दैट इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ दिस ट्रेनिंग विच यू हैव एनरोल्ड फॉर। बाकी वर्चुअल एडिशन भी आता है इसका, वही हम करने वाले हैं। लैब्स में हमारे पास जो अवेलेबिलिटी रहेगी ना, वर्चुअल एडिशन की ही रहेगी, तो वर्चुअल एडिशन को यूज करके ही हम ये बाकी चीजें परफॉर्म करने वाले हैं। अच्छा, अभी ये बिग आईपी नेक्स्ट का भी ये लेकर के आए हैं। तो बिग आईपी नेक्स्ट को इन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस किया है कि ये नेक्स्ट जेन बिग आईपी रहेगा। तो ये बिग आईपी और ये F5 सिस्टम्स की बात करोगे तो इसमें आपको हार्डवेयर देखने को मिलेगा। ये ऊपर जो F5 बिग आईपी था, यहाँ पे तो मॉड्यूल्स हैं डिफरेंट, ये पोर्टफोलियो है ये तो, कि कौन कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स हैं। और प्रोडक्ट्स में ये सॉफ्टवेयर बेस्ड प्रोडक्ट्स हैं आपके, हार्डवेयर बेस्ड प्रोडक्ट्स नहीं है। हार्डवेयर में देखना है तो उसके नीचे जाना पड़ेगा F5 सिस्टम्स में। तो F5 सिस्टम्स में आपको देखने को मिलेगा कि एक तो आपके पास ये R सीरीज के अप्लायंसेज हैं, दूसरा आपके पास ये I series के appliances हैं। Just so you can see I series appliances, R series, A series, and then Veloz chassis, and then you have got Vaporeon chassis। थोड़ा डिस्कस करूंगा आप लोगों को मैं, दैट R series और बिग आईपी I series में क्या डिफरेंसेस हैं। आजकल R series काफी फेमस है, मैंने काम किया हुआ है इस पे, I series पे भी काम किया हुआ है, और मैंने विप्रियन पे, वेलोस पे काम करने को नहीं मिला अभी तक मुझे, क्योंकि वेलोस चेसी है, विप्रियन जैसा चेसी है और नया है, तो अभी तक मैंने इस पे काम नहीं किया। बट हाँ, बाकी इन तीनों पे कर चुका हूँ, I series पे भी, R series पे भी। तो मेनली मुझे आपको लोगों के साथ में डिस्कस करना I series और R series में डिफरेंस। बाकी विप्रियन चेसी को भी मैं आपसे डिस्कस करूंगा। उसकी जो ट्रेनिंग होती है, वैसे अगर आप देखोगे जो विप्रियन चेसी है ना, is I got your message, the one-on-one message that you are putting. Today itself, I will discuss this with the management and will seek for their support, like which type of or which language we are expected to use in this uh, during this training, right? So, because sometimes we are running F5 batches in English only, and sometimes we run them in hybrid model, because sometimes people have their specific demands that, okay, can you teach us in Hindi only? I mean, so when I say Hindi only, which means it's not complete Hindi, it's not completely Hindi, it's like kind of combination English kind of thing, that combination of Hindi and English, right? So that's the reason that I-MEDITA runs both types of batches. So probably this was for kind of English, right? But again, I will get back to the management and will look for their um you know their approvals or whatever, right? Their confirmation. Okay, let's get back here. So F5 systems. So under F5 systems, you would see that which all hardware devices we have got from F5, right? And we can use any of those. We can use R series of appliances. We can use I series of appliances. We can use Vaprion chassis or we can use Velos chassis. So we'll have some discussion around that in more details. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to give you heads up around that. So what I told you is like within Big IP, we have got different modules that we are going to cover. Big IP DNS and Big IP LTM is included in your training, but there are many other modules as well. However, everything runs on Big IP F5 systems. Right? I mean, I will say it F5 systems, right? So F5 devices. So this Big IP runs on top of the F5 system, so it's a hardware device. And for hardware devices, they have got like different series of platforms. So as you can see here, right? So we'll discuss that later. But yeah, that's all I wanted to touch base as of now. So now let me go back to these resources. And under resources tab, there is education tab. You see that? And then you can simply click on professional certification. And that would give you an idea that which all certifications you might go for when it comes to the F5. Like in Cisco, you had an option for CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, so and so. But in F5, these are all options that you have got, and you may choose any of them to attempt your exam. So you have to get started with 101, and that's mandatory. You cannot escape. Like in Cisco, you can directly go for the CCNP examination, even without going through the CCNA. So you can skip, right, CCNA in Cisco. But in F5, it's not possible for you to attempt 201, right, until you pass your 101 exam. So you can't skip your steps, right? So you have to go through each and every step here, right? And so first attempt your 101 from a technical perspective, and then go for 201. Once you do this 201, so post completing these two exams, then you become like F5 CA certified administrator. F5 CA. If somebody is into sales, then they have to go for the certification 202, which is mainly for sales, right? Certified technical professional. Now, once this 101 and 201 is covered and you attempted the examination for both of them, then you can go for like module specific exams. Like if you want to attempt for Big IP LTM examination, then you have got like two options, 301A and 301B. These are two separate exams, 301A and 301B. 301A is all about the LTM kind of like I would say LTM deployment, right? It's all about the deployment, okay? If you look at here, 301A is all about the deployment, right? And whereas 301B is all about the troubleshooting. 301B is all about the troubleshooting when it comes to the LTM. And if you go down, then you have got one exam dedicated for DNS. My point is why I'm explaining this to you is like, because I just wanted to let you know that post completing this training, once we are done with this training, because this training is like kind of, I have clubbed topics from 201, 301A and 301B. So it's mainly for Big IP LTM, but also we're going to learn that how we can administer, how we can manage the Big IPs first. And then we'll talk about the LTM as well. So what I tell everyone is that once you are done with this training, if your basics are good enough, so when I say your basics are good enough, which means I'm talking about the TCP IP model, encapsulation, decapsulation, all that kind of stuff. If you are pretty much good with that, then go for 101 first, right? And you can attempt that, and you can also pass it. So you can pass 101, then you can attempt 201. You can also pass that if you have gone through this training, and then you spend, let's say, maybe some more time to do practices and learn like different tests, because I can't cover like each module individually or independently, because if you do so, like even to cover 101, it will take a week or so. To cover 201, I'm talking about the, like, if you are having daily classes, and if you cover 201 individually, then it will take like minimum 2 to 3 weeks. Then 301A will itself take like 3 to 4 weeks, and then 301B will again take like maybe 2 to 3 weeks in weekdays every day if you are having your sessions every day. So just imagine that how much time it will take to complete all those training if you are covering them module by module. And that's the reason that we do not, like, when you contacted I-MEDITA never committed you to cover these trainings module by module. No. So what we did is, like, we clubbed the BIG-IP LTM training, which got topics from BIG-IP, which got topics from 101 and also from 301A and 301B. So objective, the objective should be to clear all these exams, obviously, but then we are not going to cover all these modules independently. There will be a common training for all of these modules. Now, I will also make this a statement that you're not going to, probably you would see that in 101 I'm not going to cover each and every topic. Like, you can download the blueprint from F5's website. Similarly, it goes with 201, but definitely 301A and 1B, right? So that's where we will be touching each and every topic that you can have in the blueprint also. That's that. And on top of that, I would say that when it comes to the BIG-IP LTM training, we are following the content provided by the F5 only, because they also take the trainings. Like, if you want, then you can also get the training directly from F5. So we are following the same content, the same content which F5 is offering to their customers. That's that. But yeah, I mean, if you could see here, you have got the certified administrator. If you cover 301A and 301B, then you become CTS, certified technical specialist. And if you cover like 401 or maybe 402, then you become certified solution expert. So you can simply compare them, or you can simply think of in this way, that this is equal to kind of CCIE in Cisco, and this is kind of CCNP in Cisco, and this is like CCNA in Cisco. So this is how the certification have been defined by F5, right? So these all are the exams. Now, obviously, you have got dependency. Like, if you want to attempt 301A or 301B, then you have complete dependency over 201. If you want to cover 201, then you have dependency over 101. If you want to cover, let's say, 401, then before covering or before taking on 401, you must go through LTM, ASM, and APM. These certifications, like, you must clear those exams, and then only you can attempt for solution expert, certified solution expert in security. So the prerequisite is to cover like 301A, 301B. So, I mean, so you cannot bypass any of them. You can't say that, no, I'm not going to cover it. I'm not going to cover it. And then I'll just directly go for, maybe you would say, certified solution expert into security. Then no, it's not going to work for you. Okay. So any questions for now? The cost.
Yes.
The cost is, I mean, if I'm not wrong, although I can give you the specific answer over here, right? But when it comes to the cost, it is fixed cost. That's a good thing about the F5, that they do not have different cost for different exams. They have got like similar cost for every exam. So for an example, if you look for 301A, right, or maybe 301B, the cost will be similar to like 101, and that should be, like, let me show you. I believe this is 150 or $200 plus GST. It's like that. 180. Yeah. And it's same. Earlier it was 150.
Okay,
Maybe
same
F5
institute, right?
got his,
Multiple points.
yeah, maybe F5 got it increased. But earlier it was $150 plus taxes, and it was common for all examination. And still it is 180 for all. So if I go back here, and if you, let's say you want to attempt for 101, just click there, and then cost should be same, like 180 plus GST. So they made increment here, right? So earlier it was $150, but maybe they have added 30 more dollars now to it. And that's the reason that it became $180 now. But it's same whether you attempt your 101 or 201 or 301A, 301B, or 302. whichever exam you want to attempt. So it's same. That's a good thing about this. But then if you go for, let's say, the 401, right? If you want to go for this exam, then definitely, um, so again, it's like $180.
Okay. And
But
is there any validity
correct,
for F5
correct.
also? Okay.
Yeah, for F5 also, and it is of 2 years if I'm not wrong. So the validity for any certification in F5 is just for 2 years, not more than that. So that's quite low, I know, but this is what it is.
Okay.
And the retake policy is also there.
Is how many hour exam?
It's simple. You have got 80 questions, then 70 items are scored, and for out of 80 questions, 10 questions will be for beta items, and you will get in total 90 minutes.
What about the dumps and who is conducting this exam? It's
That's a nice question. So it's a Pearson view that conducts the examination,
okay.
right? And the centers must be their own center. It's not like anyone can conduct these exams. Like
Mhm.
there are some testing centers from Pearson view. Those are like kind of franchisee centers. Like for an example, if you are running an institute and you wanna, or maybe you are a college and you want to have your testing center in house, so it will be kind of like franchisee center. But if Pearson view itself, they are having their own center, that's where the F5 examination will be conducted. I'm not sure about Dubai, if they must be having over there. They must
Yes,
have
yes.
one of their own center over there. But yes, in Pune also we have got one, which is in Hadapsar, near to, I will not call it really Hadapsar, but maybe it's Kharadi. It's the same. I mean, those are nearby places, right? So, Reshma, if you need to attempt those exams, then you will have to visit that place. I believe it's
Mm.
Aeon IT Park somewhere. I mean, I knew it, but I'm not able to recall that complete address. But yes, in Pune also you have got one.
All questions are multiple choice, right?
Yes, all are the MQC based, multiple MCQ based, right? Multiple choice questions. So yes, but those multiple choice questions sometimes will tend to those scenario based questions, right? Like they will give you a specific scenario and then will ask for the solution, that okay, what will be your solution? And this is the option, this is the option, this is the option. The questions are not that much straightforward, okay? So just keep that in your mind. Some questions contains exhibits or scenario that you will need to view in order to answer the question. See that? No, I understand that probably it will be difficult to crack this exam without having at least a practice question paper, right? So you need them. So if you can have the practice question papers, and then it will be easier for you to make it happen or to clear this exam. Even F5 also provide their practice questions. They will charge you something. Those are chargeable. But F5 do provide the practice questions, right? And then you can practice through them and then you can attempt your exam. Fine. This is about the certifications and exams and their fees. So now you are comfortable with each of these information, right? Now let's talk about the lab that we are going to have access to. So I will show you, I will display that which lab we are going to work upon, right? You will also have access to the same labs. Okay, give me a sec. I'm connecting to the VPN. So I have to connect to the remote access VPN and then only I'll have access to the lab, right? So I'm connected now. So we have turned on the VM. And since we have turned on the VM, now it will take a minute or so to boot it up, and then we can have the access to the labs. And I will display you the diagram that we are going to use. So now if I refresh this page, I shall get the login page, and then yeah, here you go. So this is the topology that I'm going to utilize throughout this training. So if you look at here, I have got big IPs in high availability mode. So we can perform the lab for the high availability. These are the backend servers, which means this is your server form, or these are also known as like application servers. And then you have got a site or maybe a internet user. So this router is doing kind of pat and connected to the internet. And then through internet, then you are connected to the data center. So this is the scenario that we are always going to follow, or we are always going to work upon. So this lab we will be utilizing for doing all of our, or for performing all of our labs or practicals. So it has got everything, whatever needs, whatever we needed to cover this training. So yeah, this is the lab topology that we are going to use. You are also going to have access to the same labs, like you have got the same topology. There will not be any differences. In fact, you can use the same IPs. And in fact, I would suggest you to use the same IP addresses. That would be good for you. Okay. So yeah, that's that. Any questions or concerns for now? So this is the lab, and you will have a lab access directly through the internet. You don't have to connect through the VPN, and that is dcmylabs.cloud. So once you have access to that domain, you have to access this domain. You will be given your user ID and password. You log in through your user ID and password, then you get access to this lab, the same lab. However, there were talks going on that we will migrate them from internet to the VPN because we had some security concerns. So to mitigate those security concerns, we decided, like, there were talks to move everything onto the remote access VPN. So if that has already been completed or migrated over to the VPN, then you may have to, like, you will get everything over an email. Once your labs are provisioned, you will get you will receive an email that this is your lab and this is how you're going to access it. And also I will be demonstrating that how you can have your lab access and how you can perform your labs. So that's that. But this is the diagram that we are going to follow. So mainly we will have the internet users and then applications hosted in data center, and we will be having access to those applications. And that's the best way, or the best use case that we could utilize here. Although you would have different scenarios, like some applications should be accessible only internally. So those are the internal applications. Those are the internal applications. But you would not provide access to any external user for those internal applications. But that does not make any difference from a big IP or from F5 load balancers configuration perspective, whether your application is a private application or your application is a public application. It does not make any differences when it comes to the deployment on the F5 load balancers. So that's the reason that I took only one use case here, and that is only the internet users. So your application will be accessible through the internet by the internet users, and then you would require to deploy that application on your F5 load balancer. So that's what I have designed. That's that. If anybody has got any questions, like Bijesh, you or Reshma, around this topology, please go ahead and ask those. Am I audible to you at all, or how is it?
Yes, it's
Okay,
audible.
good.
Yeah,
Okay.
In this, where will be the we are doing the WAF and all in this,
You are
or
not doing WAF here.
okay,
The training does not include WAF. For WAF, you have different training, right? This is only for LTM and DNS.
okay.
Yeah. So we will be covering only LTM, local traffic manager, and then DNS. Also, earlier it was like GTM. It was known as GTM, global traffic manager. So this is what you are going to cover throughout this training. Okay, now I do have some expectations from you guys, right? And obviously, I am here to help you out, but it's not like I'll be covering each and everything around this. Okay, so all I need to know is, or all I need from you guys, from all of participants, is that let's say I'm opening up this browser, right? So this my.fi.com is an application. Would you agree with that statement that this is an application? Would you both agree to this statement that yes, this is the application that we are accessing via internet? It's F5 application, correct? Hello,
Yes,
hello.
yes. Yeah, 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 yes.
You need to be participate actively, right? Yeah, please participate
Yeah,
actively.
sure, sure.
Okay, so this is the application, correct? We are accessing this application. Now, when we are accessing this application, so you see this mark, this one. What does it indicate? This symbol. Earlier, it used to be a lock button. Now, still, it is a kind of lock, but what does this indicate?
It's secured.
Exactly. And I need you to have understanding around this. Like it indicates that it is a secure application. Why it is secure? If you click there, it will display your connection is secure. Why it is secure? Just expand that. So it says certificate is valid. So it says that this is the certificate, and because of this certificate, this application access was secure access, or this was a secure access to this application, right? So you can see that this certificate was issued to this domain by whom? The organization by whom it was issued, correct? So we need to know about this stuff. You should be knowing that okay, there is a concept of the digital certificate. Whether you are connecting to the Gmail server, Facebook, so it is mandatory for you to have this. I mean, to have these digital certificates to have a secure connection between your browser and the application servers. Right? I'm here to help you out. If you have got any issues with the certification, ask me the question. But I want you to go through it by your own once, because this is not the only place where we are using these digital certificates. These digital certificates are everywhere. Even if you configure the proxies, like I'm not sure that how many of you or both of you ever worked for the security engineering team, but if you have an experience working with security engineering teams, then you must have understood that you use the digital certificates for the SSL decryption even on proxy servers. And now since your next gen firewalls itself having that feature, so you can also install the digital certificates on your next gen firewalls, and then you can use them as SSL proxy to perform the decryption. And then your application filtering, URL filtering will work with more effectively. So this is not the only place where you're using the digital certificates. You have been using these digital certificates like since long time. It's not about only load balancers. So I need you to have some knowledge around these certificates, like what is the identity certificate, what is root CA cert, now who is root CA, and what is CSR, certificate signing request. And sometimes there is a concept of intermediate CA as well. So at same time, I also want you to have the knowledge around the intermediate CA as well. I know, I mean, it's not mandatory, but it's good to have that knowledge as well, that what is intermediate CA and all that, right? Apart from that, I also want you to have good knowledge around the basics of networking. So when I say basics of networking, which means that how data encapsulation or decapsulation takes place. And that would include like the functionality of IP header, the function of TCP, function of UDP, the information contained by TCP header, UDP header. You get my point. Then how IP routing takes place, how MAC address gets rewritten, what is .1 Q tag, what is VLAN. So these are the basics of networking, and I expect from of you that you are already having familiarity with that basics of networking. And why is it is needed? Let me tell you. So when you are working on the F5 load balancers, you would need to work on all these things. Like you have to work on routing, you have to work on VLANs, you have to work on Ether channel, you have to work on IP addressing, and then you also have to work on the dynamic routing. So like you can implement OSPF, BGP, right, to enable dynamic routing between big IP and the any other layer 3 device such as routers, layer 3 switches, or maybe firewalls. So that is also possible to enable the dynamic routing. Now thing is that all these topics are not included in your F5 training. No, that's not part of the LTM. There's nothing to do with the LTM. But since you have to configure your big IP from scratch, so you should be having all that knowledge, like what is VLAN, what is SVI, like how do we allocate the IP address to the VLAN, and how does routing takes place. So I am expecting, like my expectations from all participants is to have this basic stuff all clear. I mean, you must be really good with your basics, like how ARP works, address resolution protocol. Am I supposed to explain that here in the F5 training? Of course, no. That's part of the basic fundamentals of networking. So you should be having that knowledge that what is ARP process, what is IP routing process. So how and especially what is NAT. You should be knowing NAT. How big IP performs NAT, that is a separate story that I'll be covering, that which all different types of NAT are supported by the big IP and how we can make them configured. But what is NAT? Why do we use it? This is something that you are expected to have knowledge around. I mean, if you have any problems with that, make sure that you go through all that kind of basic stuff. Now, any questions, concerns for now? Dijesh, Reshma, are you comfortable what I said?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So,
And
I
now,
mean, I
Initiator,
hope
I
that,
have seen, sorry.
yeah, Reshma, go on.
So now currently I'm not working, but I have seen in my team we are getting like to renew the certificate, on F5. So is this the same thing? Like here also there is a validity period for the certification, and once it is expired, we need to renew it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the same thing. You are since you are already working on big IPs, especially load balancers, and you are already working on this certificate thing. Once it gets expired, you get it renewed. You're getting it renewed, which is a good thing, and it's the same thing which we are going to cover over here. But what I'm saying is, okay, you got it, that how to renew the certificate, but do you really understand that how it is working? That is important. It's not about like, okay, running those commands like generate CSR, or maybe just copy the existing CSR, get it signed, and then, renew that certificate. This is not just that. It is beyond that. It's beyond that process, because I know that having the um, SOP in place for certificate renewal, there are SOPs written, right? So you just follow that. But if you don't understand that, why are you doing that, and how certificate thing is working, why it is important, then even that SOP is useless. It is good, like, because it's good for production work, but when it comes to perform troubleshooting, then you will be blank. So it's important for us to understand like how certificate is getting authorized, what is the role of root certificate, and what is CSR, and what is the identity certificate, and what client machine does to trust that certificate provided by the application server. So we need to understand that process as well. So like for an example, if F5 has given me this certificate, right, and it says connection is secure, certificate is valid, fine. But why my browser said that this certificate is valid? That is important to understand. So for that, you go to detail. So you would see that this certificate is provided by an Entrust Certificate Authority, which seems to be intermediate CA. And then this intermediate CA got the certificate from this root cert, and we have got the root cert chain, a complete root cert chain available on this machine. And that is the reason that browser trusted the certificate provided by my.f5.com. And since my browser trusted that certificate, so there was a secure connection. On your PC, you can always check like certificate manager. Like you can always run this command certmgr.msc, and then this window can open up. So here you can always check the trusted root CAs, and also you can see trusted intermediate CA. So you can also see those intermediate CAs, right? So this is how you look at the available certificates for the current user, and also you can look for the current machine as well. So probably you can go for like options. I have to use some different command here. to open that, but currently I'm able to look at the current user certificates only. So the certificates will be available for user as well as for the machine. Okay. So sometimes your laptop will be using the machine certificates, and sometimes it will be using the current user certificate. Like currently it must be using the current user certificate. So we are at good place to validate if root certificates are there or not. So root cert chain is always available on your local machine. Okay. And identity certificate is always provided by the application server. Like here, in this case, F5 has provided you the identity certificate. So that is important for us to understand. Like if you go to facebook.com or whatever, right? Fast.com, this is also secure. And then you can check this lock button and then check for the connection is secure, right? And certificate is valid. So you can see that this is for fast.com and provided by the DigiCert. So you can also look at here, or maybe gmail.com or whatsoever. Maybe you open a facebook.com, you would see that it is also secure. The certificate is valid, and this is again given by the DigiCert. So even Facebook is using the certificate issued by the DigiCert. So DigiCert is working as a CA certificate authority for. So point is that I'm here to help you out. I will answer all your questions, but at least I want you to go through it at least once by your own. Then also, please go through some Wireshark thing, because when it comes to the F5 load balancers, it is important for us to understand the Wireshark, because while performing troubleshooting, it helps a lot to take the packet captures using Wireshark and then perform troubleshooting. Make sense? Now, this training does not include that how to work on Wireshark. This training includes that how to take the packet capture, that I will teach you that on F5 how you can perform the packet captures, but you will have to get them analyzed. You will have to analyze them in Wireshark. So you should also have some knowledge around the Wireshark as well. If you have any questions, ask me. I will help you with that. But I am not going to teach Wireshark. I'm not going to provide the training for Wireshark only. Okay. But yes, I will definitely answer your questions if you have any. Then the other thing that I would like to ask, or I would like you to inform, is that ideally you should always perform testing in incognito mode. Let's say a user came to you and says that this application is not accessible, is not working. Always perform testing using private window or incognito mode. And apart from that, always I mean, if something is not working, you can also go for this, like more tools, developer tool, more tool, developer tools, and then go to network tab and then try to access some domain or which is not working for you, right? So for an example, currently everything is working for me, but let me just access this I-MEDITA.com. So you can see that transactions are happening and website is also getting loaded over here, right? So you can see that. Now, if you scroll up a little here, so you can try to analyze this I-MEDITA.com. So this is the get was sent, and this is the response header that you got in as part of the response. So you can see this is the response. And then if you want to look at like, come on, Initiator, I-MEDITA.com, this is the Initiator chain. So this is what you have initiated or what you have requested for. This is all about that. The timing is also there. You can see that how much time it took to load all these, or to get the responses back. You can also see for an example, so you can see imedita.com, and then we were moved on to www.imedita.com automatically. And also you can look for more information. So if something is not working, you should be able to read this page. This is also one of the important place to perform the troubleshooting. Okay. Especially in production environment, we do troubleshooting using 2-3 different methods, and I will cover each one of them. Like this browser, like debugging in browser. That's one thing. Second, we take the packet captures, and third, uh, we also look at the statistics of the F5 load balancers. So we look at the statistics and we try to find out the problem from there. Okay. So that's what we do. But yeah, I will cover that in more details. Okay. So that's that. Any questions from any one of you? All right. Then the other thing is that I would like to discuss with you that you should always try to visit this f5.com at least um, once in a month or so that you are aware that what's coming in, right? Because they also put it on their website that what new things are coming in. Like in 2025, they have got this app world for 25 to 27 February, and then you can apply for, you can got yourself registered to see like what all announcements they are going to make during that event. It is good to have, I mean, it is always good to join all these types of event when it is related to F5 or Cisco or whatsoever. If you are working on Palo Alto, then you should try to join all the events hosted by Palo Alto so that you can grab or you can get more and more information. That's that. Apart from that, this documentation articles, demo center. So this is also good to explore. So you should explore all this information as well. Like I will show you that how you can explore the like product documentation, reference architectures or deployment guides. But reading product documentation is also good. So if you look at here now, so if you want to download the patches or software, you can always go to downloads. If you want to track a bug, you can go for the bug tracker and you can search for the bugs. iHealth is also there, the iHealth portal. I will let you know that how to leverage that iHealth portal. And then to activate your licensing, you can always go for this, right? Licensing, and then you can log in over here, right? And then you can install the licenses on your boxes, right? So if you want to activate the F5 product registration keys, you can go there. You can have your license activated on your BIG-IP, but you must have those registration keys. And to get those registration keys, you know, you should go to downloads, which is my.f5.com, and you should log in on this page where you can get all the license information, like especially your registration keys, and also you can download your software from there. I mean, I have an account over here, so I can use that, but also you will have to create one for yourself. And even all the organizations will have their account over the F5, where they can download the software, and also they can look for all the licenses that they have got. It's similar to like a smart account in Cisco, so you can compare it with that. So I will cover all these things, like how to create those accounts, and then how to apply for trial keys, and then how to utilize them. So, but point is, like, I just wanted to show you that okay, this is how you could go for the products, right? And then apart from that, like if I go back here, you also get this option. So not only you get the product documentation, but also you get product data sheet, which is also one essential thing for you to read about. You should read the data sheets for your products. Like for BIG-IP, you can see that you can read, for example, if you are looking to purchase R series, then you can read the data sheet for R series appliances. So you can get to know about R series of appliances. Can we have this, like, can we continue tomorrow now if you don't have any issues?
No problem.
No
Take
problem.
this.
Sure. Please take care.
So yeah, we'll continue tomorrow, and from tomorrow I'm gonna start directly with the actual training, where I will start, like asking you questions around some basic stuff, and also will start setting up the BIG-IP from the scratch. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow then. So far, the only thing that we have covered is just that which topics we are going to cover during this training, what is the cost, what all devices are offered by F5. In fact, I'll go through that again. And what are the expectations that was already discussed with all of you, right? I'm not sure that if you had a chance to go through the video, the recorded video that I recorded for very first session that we had last week. right? So last week we had one session that was only on Saturday. And the only thing which I discussed during that session was just the topics, the content, right? And I'll do one thing. And also you are free to ask me questions. At any point of time, you can stop me if you want, and then you can ask me questions. I'll open up the f5.com. Just a moment, please. f5.com. There you go. So open that up, the f5.com. Now, if you go there on f5.com, there are multiple tabs if you look at there, right? So solutions, products, partners, resources, support. So if you go to support, you can always open up a support case with the F5. So if you look at here, support portal, if you want to, log in onto there, and then if you want to activate your license, right? So you can activate your registration key by going there. If you want to open a service ticket with F5, you can go there, and bug tracker is also there. And then there is a link given for software downloads. But everywhere it will ask you, like whenever you go there, it will simply ask you to log in using your F5 account, right? So if you log in with your F5 account, you will have to create one, right? And once you log in using your F5 account, you should be able to just a moment. You should be able to open your ticket with F5, and as well as you should be able to, it will ask me for the F5 verification code. So it's like two-factor authentication. Now I shall be able to log in. So MFA is by default enabled when you open up or when you create your account. So you can always create your account by going to free trials. And then let's say you have selected like BIG-IP Virtual Edition and BIG-IQ Centralized Management Virtual Edition. So if you click there, then you can always go to login or register. And by clicking on to login or register, you can simply create your account. And I would highly recommend all of you. I would highly recommend all of you to open your account or to create your account like this. You should sign up by putting your name, email ID, and so, right? So put all that information and then sign up. So create your account if you can. Okay, I mean, I would highly recommend you. And once you have that account, then after you go ahead and get logged in. Once you log in there, then simply go and create the case like this. So BIG-IP product, select product version, whatever you are using. Let's say I'm using the LTM. So we should have that option over here. LTM virtual edition, let's say we are using, and then version. Let's say I'm using 16.11. Then subject in the description and serial number of last 7 digits of registration key you have to put on there. And then you can submit your ticket. You will simply click next and then you will be able to submit your ticket. That's how you can create the ticket, but also you can download the softwares. So I will come back to this point once again, but I just wanted to tell you that creating account is very important, right? So you can also have access to your support resources, right? Like you can download things. You can go to bug tracker and then you can search for that. You can have access to the iHealth portal. So like there are many options. As I told you, like in previous session, I have only covered a couple of basic things, like which all topics we are going to cover. So let me tell you a couple of more things in detail when it comes to the basics. Guys, BIG-IP is a device name from F5. So it's a device name actually. So BIG-IP is a device name that comes from F5. So F5 is a manufacturer like Cisco. Like Cisco is a manufacturer for routers, switches, firewalls, so and so, right? In same fashion, F5 is a manufacturer for BIG-IPs, right? So BIG-IP is a device which is manufactured by F5. So BIG-IP is now available in two different modes, or in fact, I would say like three different modes. So you can purchase hardware BIG-IP, right? You can have a virtual edition, VE, and also you can have a cloud edition. Now, technically, I don't see any difference between virtual edition and cloud edition. I'm talking about the virtual edition and cloud edition. It's the same thing. Why? Because ideally virtual edition is installed on top of like hypervisor, like ESXi or maybe KVM. So and the cloud edition is installed in cloud, like if you have got AWS, maybe Microsoft Azure, GCP. So that's where like you have got so many public cloud platforms. So you can install the cloud edition over there. That's the cloud edition. But both of them are virtual. None of them are like hardware devices. Both of them are virtual devices. Then hardware big IP. Now you need to understand that which all platforms comes from big IP. I mean F5. And I'm not sure if I covered that in previous session where I must have asked for reading the white papers, or I would say um, the device description, like how many CPU cores are there, how much of memory is available on those big IPs, right? We should read all that information. So big IP is a device, always remember. Now this big IP, right, whether it is a hardware or a virtual edition or a cloud edition, now you can use these big IPs for different purposes. Like if you want to use it as a LTM, you can use them. You want to use them as a DNS, you can use them. You want to use them as a APM, you can use them. You want to use them as AFM, you can use them. You want to use them as WAF, earlier it was like ASM, you can use them. So big IPs are multi-purpose devices. I would call it that big IPs are multi-purpose devices. So we have got LTM, we have got DNS, we have got APM, we have got AFM, ASM, so and so. So these all are multi-purpose devices. So like in Cisco, switch is switch, but you have got an option of layer 3 switch. So that can be utilized as a switch as well as a router, right? So that's kind of like multi-purpose device. If it is a firewall doing just firewalling, let's say, so it's not a multi-purpose device because it's firewall and it is doing firewalling only. But when it comes to, when it comes to big IP is a purely multi-purpose device. You can use it as a LTM, and these are known as basically modules. Like LTM is a module. So you have to activate that module if you want to use your big IP as a LTM. And same goes with DNS. Like if you want to use your big IP as a DNS, it is a module that you need to activate. And you must have a license for that. If you do not have the license for DNS, or maybe for LTM, then you cannot get them activated. It's not possible for you to get them activated then. So LTM, DNS, APM, AFM, ASM, right? All these modules can get activated on big IP. If you have got licenses for them, you can always get them activated. But the device, I would say the box is same. That's big IP. Like you don't have different devices for LTM, AFM for different modules. No, you have got a same common device, which is big IP for all these different modules. That's that. So you have got a multi-purpose device that is also known as big IP. So that's that. Now, if it comes to big IP, in especially if I talk about the hardware big IP, right? Hardware big IP. You have always get like mainly two options. In fact, nowadays there are three options, but let me call them just two options, right? One is appliance, like appliances are there, and then the other one is chassis. Right? So you have got an option to buy big IP chassis. Like even in Cisco, you must have heard about 4500 series of switches, or maybe access switches, the chassis switches. 6500 nowadays, it's 9500. These all are chassis. The appliance is like either one U or RU device. Fixed devices, you can't add like the hardware modules except some of the fiber or 10 gig modules. Like there are some options, but these are fixed devices, right? The appliances. So you get appliances and you get chassis. These are two different options available when it comes to the hardware big IP. Now, when it comes to the appliances, there are two series of appliances, the I series and R series. I series and R series. The major difference between I series and R series is that R series supports virtualization. This R series of big IPs are supporting virtualization. So what does it mean? What is the meaning of virtualization? So virtualization enables you that you can have multiple big IPs installed on a single hardware. Like these R series of appliances will support multiple big IPs. Like you can install virtual big IPs on top of it. So it is supporting virtualization. When it comes to chassis, those are like F5 also call them world's largest ADC. Remember that load balancers are also known as ADC, application delivery controller. So do not get confused. The people also call your load balancers as ADC, application delivery controllers. Okay. So what I said, what I said is like load balancers are also known as ADC. So you should be aware with that. So F5 also calls these chassis as world's largest load balancer or ADC. Now, when it comes to chassis, you get two options. One, Viprion. Second, nowadays they have launched Velos. I believe that Viprion, if I has even stopped, I will have to double check on that. But they have already made this Viprion as end of sale, right? So now F5 is focusing more on Velos chassis. So earlier it was like Viprion, now it is Velos. But both of them are chassis. I'll take you through the F5 website so that you can be more confident about that. So if you go back to products, then go to F5 systems, right? F5 systems. So you see R series appliances, I series appliances, right? So R series is fully automatable architecture, reliability, access control for your critical applications. Same as like obviously I series. The only difference is that R series supports virtualization. When it comes to chassis, it's Velos chassis and blades, and then you have got Viprion chassis and blades. And these two are appliances. So this is what I have already explained you, right? So now if you go to R series appliances, if you go to R series of appliances, look for here. Next gen architecture, consolidate multi-services on one platform, from DNS service to local and global load balancing, plus attack mitigation and access control, which is like APM. Offload compute resource and lower. TCO, consolidate platform with fewer application and compute resource required allows for more focus on higher value items. So automation leads to rapid deployment. So this is what you have got. So now, if you look at the product overview, right? If you look at the product overview, so look at the R series catalog, right? So for large enterprise and service providers, this is R1000 series. So we have got R series 10,000 series for service providers and large enterprise networks, like where you have got like a big data center, big network. So we have got this R series of R10,000 series, right? And you can see that how much data or how many tenants you can create. So 36 tenants, which means that you can install 36 different big IPs. One tenant is equal to like one big IP. So just imagine that how much hardware resources it would have. Then mid to large enterprises, that's R5000 and 18 tenants can be created, right? And then look at the traffic processing, right? Layer 7 request 3.3 million, right? L4 connection per second, and these are per second, and these are L4 HTTP request per second, 18 million. L4 concurrent connections, the 85 million, right? A throughput, right? So, and then go to small to medium, right? I have already worked on 4000 series, so that supports like 4 tenants. So I have an experience of working over the 4000 series of big IP. So basically, there is an operating system that's called F5 OS, right? F5 OS, not TMOS. I'm talking about the F5 OS. So it's a hardware component, right? R4000 series that comes with the default F5 OS, right? So it boots up using F5 OS, and then on top, like once it boots up with F5 OS, then you allocate the management IP through the console access. then get the management access of your R series, R4000 or whatever, right? Of your appliance. Once you have access to the appliance using F5 OS, then on top of that, deploy your tenants. So you will have to have the BIG-IP deployed, right? So you will have to add your tenants manually then, and then you will have to allocate the interfaces. Like they come, like these appliances comes with a plenty number of interfaces, like enough number of interfaces. So I believe that only two interfaces are more than sufficient. One for internal network, one for the external one, right? In fact, you can aggregate them together and you can run it in a single arm mode as well. You can aggregate two links together and then you can start working on the port channel by creating multiple VLANs. So it's up to you, like how you want to allocate your interfaces to each tenant. So you can see 2000 series is also there, but it supports only one tenant, right? So it's better than go for I series, not for R series. And then if you want to read about this, in more details, I would highly recommend you to go for documentation, right? F5 OS and F5 R series. So go for the documentation and then read about it. So the F5 R series with the 1.0 to 1.5 and then 1. Until 1.7. So it's up to you. So this is for installation upgrade and this is for implementation. So these all are the guides that you can go for. But I'll go back and I would like to show you F5 ADC data sheets. So if you look at here F5 R series appliance, I would highly suggest to go through it. If you are working as a solution architect for F5, then it is mandatory for you to go through this data sheet. Because this data sheet would enable you to have full knowledge about your boxes, like how much resources they have got, right? And all that information. Unmatched power performance for critical applications, whatever. I mean, there is no point of reading all that information. I would highly recommend it to read about its hardware resources, right? So keep rolling down and now you can get all that information over here. So just look at it. Processor. There are 12 virtual CPUs which are reserved for just F5 OS to run, because as I told you before, for R series hardware devices, there is a F5 OS which is pre-installed, and when you power on your R series of appliance, and it boots up with F5 OS, and then through the console you allocate the IP to your BIG-IP, and then after you get the GUI access, and this is how it looks like, right? You can see there are many interfaces available, right? And then you can host your tenants, right? So this is 10900. This is both of them are 10,000 series, right? So you can see the only difference is the number of CPU cores. Here you have got 36. Here you have got 28. The hard drive you can see 1 TB, in fact 2 TB, right? There are two hard drives, and then management port. So you have got console, you have got USB, and then you have got 1000 base T, which is RJ45, right? 1 gig RJ45 port. And then look for the 100 gig, 40 gig ports. So there are 400 gig ports. And same here, 16, 25 gig, 10 gig ports. 16, 25, 10 gig ports. So those ports are available now. Just imagine. So in total, you have got like 20 interfaces. And you can have like up to 32 instances. So there is no point of, or there is no possibility that for each tenant you can have a dedicated hardware port. No, you cannot. Right? Because if you are having like 36 tenant, but you have got only 20 ports, right? So in that case, you don't have even one dedicated interface, hardware interface for each tenant. So then go for the VLANs, right? Use VLANs. Enable trunking between your F5 R series of appliance and the switch, and then play around the VLANs. Dual power supply. You can look at the dimensions, right? So, and then you have got like other specifics, the software architecture. So obviously it runs with TMOS and F5 OS, because BIG-IP that you will install virtually on these boxes, that would be running TMOS, whereas the hardware, your R series of appliance will be running on F5 OS. Keep rolling down, and then you can also look at 5000 series of boxes. So R5800 is there, R5600 is there, right? And you can read about the differences in between them, right? And then you get like R4. So I worked on R4600. One of our customer had that. So it can support like up to 2 tenant. So we installed like 2 BIGIPs. One BIGIP was used as a LTM, the other one was used as a DNS. Okay. And then you get 2000 series of appliances, right? And then there is a 10920, right? DF series. So you can also read about the specifications. And then 12,000 series is there. So keep rolling down, and then I mean, whatever information you're looking for, you would be able to get over here, right? So that's about your hardware device. And it is better to have all this information, right? Now, not only just R series, but if you go back from here now a little. Oh, come on. F5 systems. Now, if you go for the I series of appliances, so you can easily get all the information that which all I series of appliances available at the moment, right? So these all are the I series of appliances. Keep rolling down, and here you can see I-15,000 for large enterprise and service provider, 11,000 is there, 10,000, 7,000, 5,000. And then you can also look for the small to medium, which contains 4,000 and 2,000 series of I series of appliances. You want to read a data sheet about that? Then again, you have to go through the data sheets of download the data sheet, right? So you can download that, and then you can get information about each I series of appliance, right? So you can see this BIG-IP I series. Then keep rolling down, right? So if it is supporting like maybe later on F5 added the concept of the tenancy, multi-tenancy, right? So if tenancy, multi-tenancy is supported over here, right, then it will display you that information, right? If not, then it will not display you over here, right? So just look at the CPUs. So here you have got 14, and here also you have got 14, and then 11,800. So keep rolling down, and then you can get the hardware specific information for each appliance. So this is what you should be doing, or what you should be reading, right? And then I'll go back now to the I would call it come on, I'll call it like chassis, right? So you have got Velos, you have got Viprion. So if you go to Viprion, it will give you all the information about the Viprion chassis. And again, I would highly recommend to go through your data sheet. Read data sheet for the Viprion chassis, and similarly you read the data sheet for Velos. So this is how it will look like. See, so you have got like big chassis, small chassis, right? It's up to you like which chassis you are purchasing. So you can have 4800 for 480, then 2400 and 2200 chassis. The major difference in between them is the number of slots that they have got. So you can see 4800 chassis, then you have got 2200 as well, 4400 as well. And if you keep rolling down, look at this 4800 chassis. How many slots you can have? Right, 8. And in 4480, how many slots you have got? You have got only, I mean, it should have 4 trays actually. I mean, in total, it should have 4. This is about the fan. Okay, this is about the fan. Let me show you some other information here. That's about the dimensions. I shall display you the number of blades. So basically, this for 4800 should support like 8 blades. We can also count them. Whereas 4480 should support only 4 blades. You can also count them. But also it should give you that information over here, that how many blades are there, are supported. So these are blades that you can install on 4800 series of chassis, right? This is the specification of one blade. So just imagine that if one blade is having, for an example, 12 core, two Intel 12 core processors, which means one blade is containing like 24 CPU cores. And then if it is having like in total 8 blades and each blade is having like 24 CPU cores, just imagine that how many cores you would have in total, the consolidated hardware specifications. So this is about the blade, and blades will be installed on the available slots of the chassis. And this is 2400. So you can see that 2400 chassis, 2200 chassis. And then for them, you have got these blades, 2250 blade and 2150. And one blade is having that much information, right? Or that much specifications. So you should read about it. And not only just for Viprion, but also you can go for the, you can also go for the Velos one, Velos chassis and blades. That is also important for us to understand that, okay, which all chassis are available from. So you have got CX410, and then for that chassis, I've got BX110 blade. Now you can read white papers. You should also have an information about the data sheets. Let me go up. You would get all that information over here, right? Under white papers. And how does it look like? And then how you can, like how many slots can be there, right? Like this chassis partition 1, chassis partition 2. So they have provided the whole architecture of the Velos chassis. So you can go through this architecture or the white papers, I would say. So that's all about the hardware. This is all I just wanted to discuss with you, that which all hardware devices are available from F5 and the differences in between them. I just wanted to show you that you can always go through the white papers, or maybe I would call it data sheet, so that you have a complete idea about your hardware devices. So FI gives you like a complete information, and if you read it properly, you would get a lot of new information, and that would help you to beat any interview, or maybe if you are attempting or trying to attempt the exam over there also, it will help you a lot, because sometimes there will be a couple of questions that FI would ask from these things only, which I have just covered. Now, if I go back to products, right? So F5 BIG-IP, as I told you, BIG-IP can be used like as your APM, Access Policy Manager, the AFM, Advanced WAF, also known as AWAF. Earlier it was like ASM, and we have got BIG-IP DNS. Earlier it was known as GTM, Global Traffic Manager, but now they renamed it. Like not now, but a couple of years back, they renamed it from GTM to DNS. And there are so many other things as well. Like they have got BIG-IQ as well. You might get confused, like what is BIG-IQ? That was BIG-IP over here, right? And then what is the BIG-IQ? So F5 also brings you a centralized device for the centralized management, like a device for the centralized management as a manager, right? Or as a management plane that you can utilize. And that is called BIG-IQ. So BIG-IQ can be utilized for the central. You are working for, just for an example, right? You are working for, I will not call it Amazon, but rather I would call it Walmart, right? Let's say you are working for Walmart. And let's say they have got like around 200 FI load balancers. Let's assume that they have got 200 FI devices. So if you are managing all of them like individually, then it is going to be very difficult for you to manage them. For the ease of the management, F5 decided to have a centralized management, and that's called BIG-IQ. So BIG-IQ can be utilized for the purpose of centralized management. Okay. If anyone having any questions from what I have covered by now, please go ahead and ask the questions. Bijesh, Roshan, and Rupesh. Roshan, am I audible to you, or how is it, Rupesh?
Yes, audible. Need to go through all the documents one by one.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
it's
That's something that you need to go through. But are you comfortable by now?
yeah, it's okay to me.
Okay. And Roshan, for you, Roshan, are you on your system? Seems like you can't unmute. If you can't unmute yourself, put in the chat. Bijesh, you there on the call?
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, as you mentioned in this multiple tenants, what do you mean by tenants? VLAN, it's okay. Tenants.
Multi-tenancy is like deploying multiple big IPs that you can use for different purposes or same purpose as well.
Yeah.
Like on ESXi server, what you do is, like for an example, if I'm logging on to this ESXi server, right? So if you log in onto this ESXi server, and there are multiple VMs, those are tenants, actually. Those are tenants. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Okay.
Now, when it comes to our lab, we are only using virtual edition, Big IP VE. So this is a virtual edition. Now, once you download the virtual edition, like you will be downloading the over file of the virtual edition, right? You will be downloading what? The over file of the virtual edition. Platform we can use is just virtual edition. So we do not have any hardware device. I believe that it was clear to you. We are going to work on the virtual edition only. That's one thing. And you can deploy this over file. Like first you have to download the over file from the F5 account. Like for an example, if I log into the F5 account here, right? As I told you, like you can always go to software downloads and you can download your images from there. So for an example, I wanted to download the software for Big IP. Then you have to select the product line. So for an example, the most recent is 17, right? But ideally people would want to be remain on 16, version 16. So in most cases, you would see that people are using version 16 because most customers follows N-1. Like if the vendor has launched version 17, they will be using 16, right? If they have launched 18, then they will move on to 17, like that. So like different customers have got different approaches. So sometimes even as an engineer, you also recommend to your customer that, hey, this is what I want to use, right? Product version. So 16.1.5 is the most recent one. So you can select that. Once you select that, then you have to say that, hey, I want to download this for virtual edition. Select here. For AWS, select here. Azure, select here. For open source, use select this one. And for ISO image, like if you are looking for ISO image, then select just to 16.1.5. Then it will give you an option to download the ISO. Like, and ISO is always used for the upgrade purposes, even for virtual edition. ISO is the only image that would be utilized for the purpose of upgrading systems. But we are looking to deploy a virtual edition for now. So let me tell you once again, I'm repeating my statement here that even if you're upgrading a virtual system, a virtual edition, you would require the ISO and you will be downloading it from there. But since now we are looking to deploy this, so select 16.1.5 virtual edition, 16.1.5 virtual edition. And then you can get multiple options. Like you can have VMware OVA. You can also have QCOW file. QCOW is for KVM. And then you also got slot VMware OVA. You can see that. And also you should have an option to download it for the LTM image for your R series of appliances. So like here it is displaying for Hyper-V. This is also for Hyper-V. This is for ESXi image file set, right? And this is for Hyper-V. So under description, you can read it that this file is for which one? Is it for Hyper-V? Is it for VMware? Or whatsoever, right? You can always go back and read this information. And now if I go up and then if you change it, like if you want to download the F5 OS, you can also download that. It's up to you. So that's that. If you select normal 16.1.5, you can also see that you get the option for ISO image over here. So this is how you get the ISO images. But for virtual edition, select virtual edition and then download the OVA file. Like for an example, this is for ESXi. This is what we are downloading now. So once you select that, select the location from where you want to download this. Let's say I want to download from Singapore or maybe Japan, and then start downloading. So this is how you start the downloading. Now, obviously, the size of this file is 2.5 GB. And to get this downloaded, obviously, it will take long time. Now, since I already have got a copy of the OVA file, let me just check that. Okay. I shall have the OVA file. Once I will cover the deployment of the F5. See, you can see ISO. This is ISO, but I'm not looking for ISO. I'm looking for the OVA file. So that's what I'm looking for. So you can see BIG-IP 14.1 and 16.132 or 131, right? So you can see that we have got those images. So then there is no point of downloading that. So I'll cancel this out because I don't need that. I cancel this. But I just wanted to tell you that this is how you can download that. So I already have the OVA for, let's say, 16.132. And since we have got that, 16.132 OVA. Now you want to deploy that. It's so easy. You go back, log into your ESXi server. Before you deploy the OVA file and you deploy the BIG-IP, you must come up with the VLANs that you will be utilizing for different purposes. Like what is the VLAN that you will be using for connecting your BIG-IP to your data to your data side or internal side, or I would call it server farm. So you must finalize the VLAN that you will be utilizing to connect your BIG-IP with your server farm. That's one VLAN. The second thing that you need to decide is that which VLAN you will be using for external network like this. And you have to get those VLANs created on your BIG-IP. And that is important. You have to get those VLANs created on your ESXi server. And this is not something that you do. Okay. This is done by who? Tell me. This is done by who? This is done by the VMware team. So VMware team is responsible for deploying these VMs. So they only like switch work will be doing the network team. So they have to give you the IP subnets, the VLANs and everything. And if it is you, then you have to decide that. Make sure that the trunk port between server and your switch is configured with proper VLANs and everything. Then the VMware team will have to create the VLANs over here according to your requirement. Once this is done, then after you go back to host, and this is again done by the VMware team, right? So they will say that, hey, I want to create and register a new VM like this from OVA file. So select deploy a virtual machine from an OVA file. Say next, put the name. Let's say this is my I-MED BIG-IP 1. This is BIG-IP 1. Now select OVA file. Yes, so yeah, I mean, I can also select this 14. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, difference. So BIG-IP 16 is there. I got it. Select that. Say next. You have to select the data store, like in which data store you want to store your VM virtual machine. Then say next. You will have to agree this to end user license agreement, EULA. And once you accept your end user license agreement, then it will give you the deployment options. So this is for most recent one, right? So this is how they do. Your job is to download the OVA file and give it to your VMware team. And you have to tell them that in which VLAN your management port will be, in which VLAN your internal network would be, the server farm, in which VLAN your external network would be, and which VLAN you would be using for high availability. They will ask for all this information, and then also deployment type. So this is for your testing, right? I'm using this for testing purposes. But then you can also have, like, based on license, high performance license, you have to purchase what? High performance license. If you have purchased high performance license, then you can also go for this 8 CPUs and 16 GB of memory. Okay. So again, this is for your, I mean, this has to be selected based on your license that you have purchased from F5, because you have got multiple tiers like You can read it over here, right? So 1 CPU, 2 CPU, 4 CPU, 8 CPU. So based on the license, you will be selecting this. So for management port, you have to select a VLAN. For internal, you have to select a VLAN. For external, you have to select a VLAN. So this is now you have to tell them that management port will be member of this VLAN. And first tell them, okay, these are the 4 VLANs that we are going to use, or these are the only 3 VLANs, or 2 VLANs, or 5 VLANs, or 6 VLANs, whatever. And if it has to be a trunk port, let's say internal port has to be a trunk port, then they have to configure as a trunk port. If external has to be a trunk port, then VMware team will have to make it a trunk port. In case if you are allowing like data for multiple VLANs, so they know that how to make a trunk port. Okay. By default, it's thin provisioning. Keep it thin. You can keep it default and then power on automatically once this is deployed. Then say next, and then say finish. This is how this deployment would take place. It says failed access to resource restricted to the server is managing. Failed access to resource setting on the host is restricted to the server that is managing it. BIG-IP one. It looks like that something is happening due to this is managed through the vCenter actually, and that's causing some issues here. No, still same. Maybe we can do this tomorrow. We'll have to get this fixed, right? It seems like because this is managed by vCenter, right? So you can see that this is managed through the, and that's causing some issues here. I do not have access to the vCenter. So first I'll have to get the access to the vCenter, and then from there I'll have to get it deployed, this VM. Or maybe let me try to do one thing. I can try to deregister from there and then deploy it again. Seems that it's not accessible at all. Just a moment. Fine. I'll do one thing now. I'll create it again. I've disconnected this from vCenter. So BIG-IP 1. And then deploy this again. Finish. It will keep running. We do not have anything to control. It takes time, right? So see, just 1% has got completed. That will, it will keep going. And let it just keep going. Okay. I'll put myself on mute and also will pause the recording. It will take time, and then we can continue once this is deployed. So I'll pause the recording because we just powered it on, and what we did, we logged in through the root, and then as soon as we logged in through the root, the default CLI username was root and the password is default DEFAULT. So when you log in through the console using CLI console, then upon first login, it will ask you to reset your password immediately. And that's what we did. But when you reset your password for root, the same password will get applied to the admin as well. So now the same password that you have set for the root will be used to have the GUI access of the BIG-IP. So there are 2 users which are by default created on your BIG-IP, whether it is hardware one or the virtual one. The root and admin. Root is for CLI access and admin is for the GUI access. So those users are already created. Now for root, the default password is default DEFAULT. And for admin, the default password is also admin, like admin. So if you try to log in onto your BIG-IP using GUI very first time, then by default, username is admin and password is also admin. But if you are trying to, if you log in to, if you log down to your BIG-IP using CLI console first, then obviously it will ask you to reset your root password, and the same password also gets applied to the admin. So now the password for admin has got changed. It's not default now. I mean, it's not the admin now anymore. It's admin user for GUI access, but the password is same as what we have set up for root. But then again, it will ask you to reset password for admin as well. So you can have a different password for admin and for root both. So this is how things are working over here. Okay. Any questions so far?
Any ebook links or anything you have for this?
For this deployment? No.
Not only this deployment, I am talking
Uh-huh.
about the whole this course regarding
Yes, it
this
is
thing.
already there, right? I don't know if you get a chance to go through that. Let me see. This is the portal that you have, right? Up here. So this has been deployed. We got the CLI access. And as I was talking about, like by default, you get into the bash mode, and this is the Linux basically. You can execute all your Linux commands here in bash mode over here. For an example, if you see pwd, so you are in config, right? So if you say ls, so it will give you the list of all directories, files, everything. And then you can also back move, you can move back, you can move into any other directory. So if you say cd dot dot, you will get out from there. So say ls, you can move into config or maybe some other directories. So you have got all those options like cd, config, say ls. Again, you are in same mode. But I'm not going to teach you the Linux. So I'll not be configuring BIG-IP using Linux command syntax, although it is doable. You can make everything, you can configure everything using the Linux command syntax, but I'll not be using that. Instead, I'll be using TMSH, and I will be moving in TMOS mode. So TMOS is the traffic management operating system. It's just like Cisco IOS. This is TMOS, traffic management operating system, that is already, or that will always be installed on your BIG-IPs. So for the BIG-IP, the operating system is TMOS. TMOS stands for Traffic Management Operating System. Okay. This stands for Traffic Management Operating System. The kernel of the TMOS is Linux, and that's the reason that you can go back in bash mode. So if you want to go back in bash mode from TMOS, just type bash and then go back. You want to come back into TMOS now. So basically, using CLI, there are two methods to configure your BIG-IP: using TMOS command syntax and using Linux command syntax. Now, I'll not be covering Linux command syntax. I'll be covering only TMOS command syntax. So once you move in TMOS, then after you can see like list, like if you want to see something, then use either list command or show commands. So if you want to look at the configuration, so especially use list command. But if you want to look at like kind of some outputs of the interfaces, like statistics of the interface, the virtual server, then use show command. But if you want to look at the config, then use list. So if you want to see list sys system, sys stands for system, right? And then management IP-IP. So list sys management. So you could see that it has obtained an IP address from the DHCP. Look at this 30.215. Now using same IP address, I can have access to this BIG-IP 30.215. So if I put on there like HTTPS 30.215, right? And putting HTTPS is mandatory. Putting HTTPS is mandatory. Always keep that, remember. If you do not put HTTPS in the beginning, like for an example, if you keep it like maybe default, which is HTTP, you will not have access to it. It will not work. Okay. So it is mandatory for you to put on the HTTPS in the beginning and then have access to your BIG-IP. You can also have DNS entries created against this IP address, right? So you can also have access to this BIG-IP using its name. That is also possible. The default username is admin. The password is what we have assigned for root, right? So I'll be using same password, which I have assigned for the root. Because if I use admin only, then it will say login failed, admin. So it will say login failed like this, right? So you have to use the same password as we used for after resetting root password, we assigned some password to the root, and the same password was applied for the admin as well. So now current password and then new password. Save it. Now the password for admin has also reset. We have resetted that, and now login again. This is the GUI access of the BIG-IP. This is how it looks like. Now let me tell you one more thing. by default, the management interface of the big IP. By default, management interface of the big IP is pre-configured to obtain an IP address from DHCP, and that's the reason that it was able to obtain IP address from DHCP. So if DHCP services are running, it is good. If DHCP services are not running, then it is problem. So it is important that DHCP services are running. Now, what if DHCP services are not running? Then you have to allocate IP address manually, right? Just for an example, if I want to allocate an IP address manually over here, I have to, I can run like commands here, or I can also change it through the GUI. That is also possible. But I would highly recommend to use console only, the CLI console, to change the management IP. It's so easy to do so in that way. But for now, my big IP even has got the internet access. So like in my topology, on my ESXi server, it has got an IP address from the management VLAN, and management VLAN contains, or it has got the internet access, right? So if you say ping google.com, so yes, it's accessible, right? In fact, you can say ping f5.com. That is also accessible, right? So I mean, everything is working. Point is, if you want to change your management IP, how you can change that? I've got this console access, obviously, you know it very well. So I can also go to in full mode. So this is full mode. So the command syntax to change the management IP would be like create sys management IP, and then management IP address. Let's say I wanted to allocate like 30.46. Yeah, that's it. /24. Right? Now, what is it saying that no, we can't configure that? Why? Because it is conflicting with your global settings. So first you have to disable the DHCP for a management interface, and then only you will be able to configure it manually. So to disable it globally, the command is modify sys global settings, right, for management DHCP, and get it disabled like this. And then use the same command once again, and this time it would obtain that IP address. Yes, it has accepted the command. Now say list says management IP. So you have got the management IP now, 30.46. Earlier it was like 215. And therefore you would also lost your GUI access now. Say refresh, you do not have access to this big IP anymore. Why? Because IP has got changed. So now make it 46. And now you would get access. See? You're done. Go ahead, log in using admin. You got access to the big IP using UI. But remember, until you install the license, you will not be able to perform anything on your big IP. So the very first thing that F5 would ask you to activate your license. Trust me, if you do not activate your license, it will not allow you to perform anything that I'll cover in next session, that how to install license and all that kind of stuff. So, you have an idea that how to make the initial setup, right, of your big IP. So we already installed it on top of ESXi. You know that how to allocate an IP address, especially the management interface IP, because other interfaces we have not configured them yet. It's just that we allocated IP address on the management interface of this big IP, although DHCP services were by default enabled, and therefore my big IP was able to obtain an IP address from the DHCP without any problem. Any further questions from anyone? No? Okay. So as I told you, like I'll be keeping it a little short today. From next Saturday, Sunday, I think we should be okay to have complete 2 hours long sessions, but I'll keep it a little short today. And I'll see you now on next Saturday. In meantime, you can also try to set up your big IP. Like at least you can try to log in onto your big IPs using root through the console, and then it will ask you to reset the password. You can perform the same steps, but it's not important for you to power on the big IPs and to set the password. What important is for you is, is to go through the white papers and then data sheets for all the platforms that I have shared today. So I've shared all that information with you, that how to look for or how to look out for all that information, right, for specific hardwares. So it is better for you if you can go through that, because that would boost your confidence into the F5 technology. Why? Because then you have an idea that which all different types of management or I would say which all hardware components it has got, what are the differences in between them, what operating system they are using, and so and so. So better that if you go through that. If you do not go through that, again, I'm okay, because I'll be covering that how to make all this configuration work. So that's that. Any questions, concerns for now? No? Okay.